Hi, welcome to SBR Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. Week 15 in the NFL, Chicago and Minnesota is the game we're going to take a look at right now with Joe Duffy from offshoreinsiders.com. Joe Duffy, man, you always take the tough ones. This looks like a particularly tough one to me, right? Minnesota, 5.5 point home favorite. The Greek has 5. Totals 42.5 or 43. And, the Bears are struggling, but they definitely have some positives. They definitely have fight in them. So as a decent-sized underdog, I'm not sure I'd want to bet against them. Minnesota, though, played a better game last week against Arizona. They've kind of figured out how to be productive offensively when teams stuff the box against Adrian Peterson, and they have 3 extra days of rest, so I'm not sure I'd want to bet against Minnesota at home either. And then the total, it's a low total, so it could easily sneak over, but Minnesota games are usually very modest scoring, so it could go under or over easily as well. For me, I think this might be a complete and total pass. Joe Duffy, do you have anything to say about these lines?
Of course I do. Usually when it comes to extra rest, whatnot, I don't find that to be a big advantage. And I've done plenty of research on it. I do think there are some dynamics when both teams are off of a Sunday game and they're playing on Thursday. But anyway, what do I always say about Jay Cutler and the Bears? They are predictably unpredictable. And no shock, but the underdog is 8-3 straight up in their last 11 games. So again, when you least expect it, you expect it from the Bears. That's just the way Jay Cutler is. He's got all this talent, but he's underachieving, which means one week he's going to be sensational. The next week he's going to look terrible. And the old cliche, a lot of people say in a rivalry, throw out the point spread, throw out the records. With Jay Cutler, you almost do need to throw out the point spreads. And that's a big advantage for you. The Vikings, they kind of fit into another one of my angles. It's a lot easier to be the hunter than the hunted. Now, all of a sudden, the pressure's on Minnesota. They're not doing all that well. They have dropped 3 of their last 4 straight up. And in fact, the record might be a little deceptive overall. Despite being 8-5 straight up, they've only outscored their opponents by a total of 3 points all year. Not 3 points per game, but 3 points for the entire year. And I did run a couple angles. Basically, teams like that are about a 57% to 58% go against if essentially their points per game says they should be about 500, but their record says that there are several games above 500. So I think Chicago's the play here.
Awesome analysis, Joe Duffy. The Vikings do have a bunch of defensive starters banged up as well. And I guess the only thing that makes me nervous about this one is just the psychological issue when it comes to betting on a team, with less rest at this point in the season. But even late in the season, you're saying basically just throw that out.
I have, and I've definitely done research, and I think even one of the videos we did last week, I even specifically said I took a look to see if maybe rest is more important in late season. Right. And no, really what I found out, and we'll talk about this on other videos because it rarely happens anyway, but when a team is off an overtime game and then go from a Sunday to Thursday game, there's an advantage there. But no, there's really no big advantage in the NFL when it comes to a little bit extra rest.
All right, well, the Greek does appear to have a lean towards Chicago. Right now, the market-wide line is 5.5. The Greek is hanging 5. Joe Duffy giving a pick on Chicago plus 5.5. That's official, right, Joe?
You got it. Predictably unpredictable.
Thanks so much, Joe Duffy from offshoreinsiders.com. Give a very well-earned, well-deserved plug for your website.
Yeah, we've had a spectacular year. I know before last week, those 2 previous weeks weren't necessarily our best. Bounce back big time, back in the kicking. You know what? 7-3 in football last week. NFL plus the Army-Navy side in total sweep. We have the NFL Game of the Year up this weekend, plus a ton of college football bowls starting Saturday. Visit offshoreinsiders.com for all the details.
Game of the Year this weekend?
Yes, and in fact, I will give you a very specific stat that is 100% as far as any database we have goes, going back to 1980.
Oh, my God. That sounds awesome, Joe Duffy. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Peter.